couple extra bruises.
That was their game plan.
They did a nice job, they got up like 9 or 10. I don't know if it got to 10, but it was close. And we made a nice little run to
You make it close, make it time.
6:55. In the year. Just kind of getting us started. I'm just gonna pass this around. This was in the review this last weekend. Reverse alphabetical for the special section, so we're second to last instead of the second. Chronologically this year. Know anybody that's making the trip, Andy? Yeah.
Nurses for sure. That she went down last time. Oh, it's almost. He was telling me because COVID, they actually have like 6 years of eligibility. So I think he's in his academically, I think he's a junior. So it's in his 3rd year, but he actually has like kind of 4 years of eligibility left or something like that. 3 more years probably on this year. He's not starting.
Yeah.
He's huge. Right. He's 6'8". His dad is 6'8". He weighs like 290.
Yeah. Yep. I saw something where there's a kid in Oregon on the Oregon football team that's 8 years because he had medical. Did you guys see that?
His last name Settles.
Easy now. An Oregon football player that's like was just granted an 8th year of eligibility.
Oh. Got a 4 riding, so it'd be a big bill to pay it.
Oh, I think all those football players are full rides now if you're D1.
8 years. It's a lot of return, but
Second row in the offensive line bench is right in front of us, and I had season tickets back probably in 2010 time, then for about 5 years. Last year I had Zach Center was up there, but there's a noticeable difference, I thought, in the size of players back then versus now. Huge, massive.
Take that back. 9th year. The Van Wilder.
I could do that many early morning workouts.
20, and he started in January of 2016. So he graduated high school early.
understand storm lines pretty well by now.
He's already earned his bachelor's and master's.
That's how I get tired of doing.
Oh.
I mean, it could be.
I was just gonna say, how old would he be? I've been married for 7 years already.
You are old, Jackie.
Like, how old are we talking here? Yeah. You're only 2 years.
7.
Still.
The one that said it.
7:00, so I will close the public hearing and call the meeting, the regular board meeting to order. If you could stand if you can and join for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie and roll. Have a quorum. He is here. We'll see in a few minutes. Item C, adoption of the agenda. Do we have Mr. Dorr?
I would just note, we will not have a staff presentation, so we can try to expedite the meeting tonight and get those that want to get to the 8 o'clock choir concert. And then I've uploaded Mr. Engelman's report. It's online, just the notes and the details that he's provided is on Simbly. So those are the only two changes.
I uploaded another 7 bills,
Yep.
list of bills. So, just a few minutes ago.
Okay, so no formal changes. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
What's the job, adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
A motion and second to adopt the agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item D, public input on non-agenda items. Let's see, anybody signed up to speak tonight. So we will move on to item E, approval of minutes of past meetings. So the documents you provide here, Jackie, those are the ones that go to the newspaper, right?
Mhm.
Not necessarily what would be uploaded to Simply to document minutes, is that right?
So what's attached here
What's
is
attached is what I sent
what
to the
goes to
paper.
the paper.
Yeah, what you're approving is an abbreviated version of,
Assembly minutes would look a little different. Just-
yes, yes, correct.
People can always access the supporting documents or any
Right.
of the attachments that Jackie, myself, or the principals have uploaded to the meeting. But the minutes are what that PDF is.
And then, yes, for like the previous meeting, I take the minutes. Those are gonna look funky compared to this abbreviated shrunken version.
Any comments or changes to those?
I'll make a motion to approve the
Second.
minutes.
A motion and second to approve the minutes of past meetings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approval of financial items. 3 items, financial reports, summary list of bills, and SBO report.
On the financial report, if you click on the special revenue report, it's before you there. Management, 104,000. Physical plant equipment levy, playground and recreational equipment levy, and save, all combined. Down below, I don't believe, no, that is just PEPAL and save down below. So 1.2, almost $1.3 million between those two funds, and then an additional $102,000 in the Pearl Fund. That's just kind of the balances to show you going forward for your capital improvement projects. Out of the save fund balance, that is not the interest payment that is due January 1st. It's in your list of bills, but it's not taken out as the report for this. This is the ending November 30th, 2022. Back into activities report. I really don't have anything to report there. Kind of just same old student construction. as you can see right there, is still running at a negative, will continue to do so until the house is put up for bid, auction, or however the board decides. And then split funding, as you can see, that continues to grow. Mr. Jorth and I've had some conversations started with staff members, insurance representatives, and I know the personnel committee will be talking as well about how we might utilize those funds going forward. And then in the annual treasurer's report, again, nothing too earth-shattering to report there. You can see the expenditures are up a little bit, our revenues are down a little bit, that's to be expected, we're not taking in as much cash, and therefore you can see the cash balance started out quite significantly higher than the year before and is slowly dipping down, which is what we kind of want. We stopped levying that amount of cash. But otherwise, I don't really have anything too significant to report in the monthly financials at this point. In the list of bills, again, there should be a couple reports there for you to review. If you have any specific questions, I'd be glad to answer those. And as far as the school business official report, I don't really have anything. I'm still waiting to hear something from the audit. Hoping within the next month or so, because we'll have to get that approved before they can submit it to the state, so. March 1st. I know they don't like to get that close to it, so typically we do that in either December or January, but
New firm, new timelines. We're all kind of
yeah, and I know in the last couple of years, it's been later and later even for our previous company, just because of the amount of things that they have to check. And then we have that federal audit, single audit as well, so, because of the federal funding. That's what I have, unless you have questions.
Maybe what the cash levy amount was, 21, 22, 300 or 600?
Not that high, because I'll have to go back and look. Give me just a second. No, you're fine. I can find
We
it.
give a lot.
I think I can find it.
Take a motion when you're ready, those three.
Make a motion to approve the financial items.
A motion and second to approve the financial items as listed. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Item G, administrative reports, discussion items. First item listed there, recognition and congratulations to students, staff, and community. Mr. Jordan.
Yeah, I'd like to put a plug in for our robotics team. They've had a very successful fall, building towards the league championship, which we'll host here at Central Lyon on the 7th, first Saturday in January. So we've got two teams, basically a varsity and a JV. And so our varsity team going into this weekend was in second place. We did not travel to Hinton on Saturday morning, so they fell from second to fifth. Doesn't really impact ultimately the league championship, but if you think about the regular season, they're accumulating points. Again, not every team that's in our league goes every Saturday. And so it kind of fluctuates, and that's why we have the league championship. So you're comparing apples to apples on that same day. So again, hats off to Mr. Allen. He's the one that's organizing everything for the 7th. I know he's looking for a couple more volunteers. If anybody's interested, you can reach out to Mr. Allen. So hats off to them. I also want to put a plug into our maintenance staff, Steve Bresky, Matt Bixaman, Bruce Eckenrod, Todd Knapp for all the snow removal last week, and a lot of extra hours for those guys, early mornings. Same goes for Lane Menning. Lane and I are the two guys that are out driving the roads, trying to figure out if we're going to be on time, going to be late. So appreciate Lane's willingness to help me out on that. And then the entire staff, teaching staff, support staff for the flexibility. And same goes for our parents in our community. You know, a couple of those days last week, just really challenging. Probably could have had school. You know, we would have known that the temperature was going to stay 34 degrees instead of what was projected to be a little bit colder on Tuesday. But really appreciate everybody's flexibility. So community-wise, we want to thank all, city crew, county, state, for doing their best to get everybody to and from safely. Again, a lot of extra hours for all those folks. And then like, I just added all the different stories that were in the review this weekend. Typically, we get a host of extra copies of that Lion's Roar. And once we receive those, we'll put them out for the community to pick up if they don't subscribe to the review. So, principals, anything else to recognize or highlight?
To answer your question, Dave, 139,000. Normally we levy about 5 to 6. Cash.
Okay, right, so that's what it was previously, 5 to 6,000.
Now,
So
this last month, for this fiscal year, it's 139. Yep, it goes off of the previous year's fund balance, and that was dictated by the state.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Yep.
Okay. Then, Mr. Dorth, we will skip staff presentation tonight and move on to principal reports. Mr. Harmon, you go first.
Yeah, I wanted to do a follow-up. We just had our book fair, hot lunch week, which is a little later this year. It was the first full week of November. Hats off to Jody Schrick, Diane Reck, who worked in the library, but Darcia Tiggy and her staff. All the cooks that help out to make that a week a success. As you can see there, I wanted to give some figures for you. Those numbers that we have were of paying adults. So we always had some parents that came in that chose not to eat the lunch, but we encourage that as well, to sit with their child in the lunchroom. The feature grade goes, they come in, they are the first group to come on in. We can kind of get them on the table so they get the full experience, which I put dads on the outside corners because that gives them the most room. Spend some time with their child, good fellowship time. When they're done, then they head to the book fair, which is hosted by Scholastic. And Jody just has that thing ready to go, trying to get people in and out of there. There's, you gotta remember there's an extra 70 adults plus all these kids in there at a time. It's a full house. So, but you can see we had great attendance, and I'd like to throw my hat off to all the support from not only parents, but family members. We have grandpa and grandmas, aunts and uncles. It's amazing number of family members we have attending that thing. And then, of course, and I asked Jody just for a summary of just to know, what exactly we get out of this, and to see that all purchased in books and the extra little merchandise they have there, $11,000, over $11,000. That's just incredible. As we get a large profit of that from Scholastic, they give it back to us, and it's always great to see, how we can use that to fund the library for the rest of the year. So it really is a great week. A lot of people have to have their hand in it to make it work, but it sure is a good thing that we do. And of course, every kid gets a book. That's my goal. So, yeah, really happy with Mrs. Schrick and Mrs. Ting and all the work they do together, and then so I can just be a small part. So it's a great week. Any questions? Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Miss those days.
Right. I did throw out for next year, I did throw out that when the families are all 5 days, they do get the 5th meal for free. So that would, Mr. England's working on it.
Go ahead, Jason.
I chose this month to kind of just highlight our work study program. It's kind of the fun time of year as kids transition from semester to semester. They're kind of finalizing their college or career plans, and we're assisting with that through the work study program. So we have a healthy percentage of kids that enroll as seniors for our work study program, and that's 2 periods a day. They'll go out in the community and they'll get kind of direct observation and direct hands-on experience with some of our work here in the community. So I want to highlight that. I've had a lot of conversations with our current senior group and even some alumni that have been back the last couple of weeks, saying how they were very thankful they got the opportunity to go out in the community and kind of find out what they like and what they don't like. You have a mixed bag. Some go out thinking they're going to get into healthcare, they're going to get into certain fields, and go out and blood or something else gets in the way of that dream, and then they end up transitioning something else. So we're saving the kids saving some families some dollars, but educated choices, getting them in, getting some partners created for references. They're getting to talk to business leaders and experts in the field of study where they can go out and kind of get some just firsthand knowledge, and that person can then be a resource for them down the road. So I was talking to Mrs. Harmon about that earlier today again, and we've just experienced a lot of success with our work study kids. And I highlighted a few groups or businesses that we've worked with over the years, we got DGR, we got chiropractic, Dental Austin Company, Murphy Dentistry. There's so many different entities that have been able to work with us and the kids, and they provide such valuable, again, expertise and learning experiences for those kids. Now, it's not always you're getting your hands dirty kind of thing. It's sometimes just basic observation, whatever the business will allow us to do, but it's all been very relevant and very good for the kids moving forward. So what we're, are striving to do and will continue to do is provide them support and guidance into, based off what your interests are, how can we pair you up and see if that's an interest that you want to pursue for many years down the road. That's, so trying to save them some time and help them along the way. We're doing a pretty good job of that. So I think now is as good a time as any to highlight that. Thank you to those community partners that we have.
Thank you.
Do the students come up with like where they like to go, or do the businesses, do you reach out to businesses and say
So
what you
they'll
like?
take workplace readiness as a junior, and particularly during that time, and they've had conversations leading up to that with Mrs. Harmon of basic interest inventories. Basically, they take, what would you like to do? What have you been exposed to? Is that something you want to pursue? Yes. Well, here are 3 contacts or 2 contacts we'd like to get you. You want to work with mechanics? We'll call Clarenbeek down to Rapid Auto and see if he can get you in for. And they've always been very open-minded to bringing our kids in and exposing them. Like I said, one kid will go through a semester thinking that's what they're dead set on doing, and it'll flip, and they'll do a 180 next semester and find something else that they enjoy. And we've had a lot of success bringing those kids then back after they go to post-secondary, coming back and working for those folks. So some it's like there's immediate job opportunities, and some it's 3 or 4 years down the road and they reap the benefits.
That's great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to superintendent report. George.
Yes, with all the snow days, I did want to kind of bring the board up to speed on exactly where we're at in terms of the school calendar. And so I printed this year's calendar and last year's calendar for your reference. My 20 years as an educator, never had 5 snow days and 6 no school days before Christmas. So we're on pace to reach kind of our ending date based upon the calendar committee's recommendation and what the board approved in February a year ago. If we have one more day, we'll be at June 2nd, which is kind of the maximum we had listed here on the calendar. So then the board, as it says there, can determine how we want to make up additional days. So what I want to highlight is, again, the calendar we approved is based on hours. The minimum number of hours that we said our kids will be in school is 1,080. When we built our calendar, we got an additional 2 weeks of days and roughly 80 additional hours. Okay? So we're well beyond the minimum. Now, as we start to accumulate more snow days, or the wrestlers or basketball team should make it to state, we could have additional no school days that aren't related to weather. So things I want the board to be thinking about between now and when we get together in January is, what are some plans we can start communicating to the staff? The way I see it, we've got 3 days after our next board meeting where we've either got professional development, like Friday, February 17th, where it's a non-student day, but we've got teachers here. If we want to have a conversation about that being a student day and foregoing the professional learning, that's a day we could essentially capture. The other 2 days are around Easter. Traditionally, that's been our spring break. And so the 7th and the 10th of April are 2 additional days that if we wanted to begin communicating with staff, communicating with our families, that these potentially could be makeup days. Or we could experiment with e-learning days. Again, we can't count those as official hours, but because of our experience with COVID, I think our staff could provide some learning experiences for kids in a remote kind of digital environment. Now, there are some, limits to that. Like I said, we can't count them as towards hours. The Department of Ed says we can't require them for kids to participate. So that means we couldn't administer tests, we couldn't have project presentations, there are just some limitations as far as the teaching and learning environment. Yet, that time could also be valuable, whether it's additional instructional time. We've got Microsoft Teams, our kids experienced that during COVID, our teachers are familiar with it. We haven't talked about any of those details with the teachers, but that's something that we could really dig into and begin planning. The other option is we've got those 2 extra weeks. We don't have to make up all the quote unquote snow days or no school days. In the past, I looked the last 3 years. Last year, we quote unquote forgave 3 student days, but we had 3 days of professional development for teachers. 2020, 2021, we forgave 1 student day and had an additional professional development day for staff. So those, I think, are really kind of the 3 options, either capturing the days that we kind of have in the calendar already, looking at e-learning days, or forgiving student days and turning any additional no school days into professional development for staff.
So if you did e-learning, you'd have to like plan ahead of time. If the kids go home with the tablets and stuff, I mean, you kind of have to know what it's going to be.
Yep.
A good chance of a snow day.
Especially for our elementary kids.
Yeah.
This week would be a perfect example. Storms predicted for Wednesday into Thursday. We would try to let staff know, especially for our elementary kids. If you have handouts, be communicating with the families that might have limitations for internet. Or we could be handing out laptops to kids on Wednesday when they're going home. Take this home with you. Our high school kids, they're taking them home every single day. So it's a little bit easier, I think, at the high school level. But those details, again, we would have to really begin to plan and prepare staff for what that's going to look like. What's an e-learning day look like?
That doesn't, so just to recap on that.
Yep.
The e-learning days, they don't count towards our hours. We can hopefully count a day towards the teacher contract.
Yep.
And potentially a day for the parents to.
Yeah, so we did, my vision for our support staff, especially our learner assistants, they work closely with our special ed teachers. We hopefully get them a laptop if they need one. They can use Microsoft Teams, connect with the special ed student that they typically work with, the special ed teacher, to make sure that we're continuing the learning experience. So my hope would be our support staff would be able to work their 8 to 4 or 8 to 3:30 time like our teaching staff would.
So is teaching staff on a set payment schedule for their salary?
Yep,
Okay, so it doesn't matter on the snow days.
correct. So their 191 and a half days are paid over a 12-month.
But that matters to the parents, right?
Correct.
So if they're not working, they're not getting paid.
Yep.
It's one of my concerns that the parents are getting a paycheck. And I think if there's a way for us to combine learning and make sure the work's getting done at that.
Yep.
There's a way for us to combine that. We should certainly consider that. It's today, December 19th, and Farmer's Almanac says this is supposed to be the worst winter in much time. Yeah, we could have a long road ahead of us there.
So, as I looked, through the history, and that's why I gave you last year, last year we only had 2 snow days the entire school year. But we had 4 days where we missed because of state basketball. And then we had an additional 9 hours because of either late starts or early dismissals around state basketball. There were 2 days like that, but then we had, I think it was 3 additional days because of inclement weather where we sent kids home early. We just started late. So the year before that, again, was a really mild year. Only 1 snow day and 6 hours because of late starts or early dismissals. But I think we are in for additional days that we need to be kind of planful. And I'd like to be able to communicate that with everybody in January at our next meeting.
If you add April 10 or April 7 as school days, how does that work with like staff if if they were like planning a trip during that time? Or, are they required to take personal days then, or?
That's what we would determine.
Sure.
We could poll staff to see who's gonna be out. We could just say you have to use a personal day if you're gonna be gone. The one caveat that I would say is, in our support staff work agreement, they do have a paid holiday on Good Friday. And so our support staff's a little bit different than our teaching staff. Our teaching staff don't have a paid holiday on Good Friday. But once upon a time that agreement was made with support staff. So I get a little leery about capturing that day. I'd be a little bit more comfortable about the Monday after Easter. But I would, just off the top of my head, I would say we would communicate to staff that this is the change, and if you're traveling around Easter, you're gonna have to use a personal day.
Do we have any other paid holidays or paid days off?
Yes, so I'd have to look exactly at what those days are, but Labor Day for sure, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Good Friday, Christmas and New Year's.
You have 7 paid holidays for anyone under 196 days of employment: Labor Day, Thanksgiving, 2, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, President's Day, Friday before Easter.
But they do not have vacation days or personal days like our teaching staff.
All staff have the exact same days: personal days, sick days. The only staff that have vacation days are the staff that work 12 months a year. So your custodians, myself.
So everybody gets 2 personal days.
Everybody else's PTO or, other
Yep.
time
Sick
off
days,
is
yep.
all the same.
So support staff, whether you've been with us for 15 years or your first year,
So
you're still getting 2 personal
would
days.
a para, for example, use one of our snow days and you had to take a personal day? They get paid for that day.
We've not allowed that in the past because they're typically making up those days at the end of the year. So their paycheck will be unfortunately smaller in January, but those days are made up at the end. And I think in the past, we've given them options to continue to be here when teachers are here, and clean up rooms.
So
or
like-
whatever.
Yeah, last year, we brought a guest speaker in and we invited all the paras to participate in that. Like Jackie said, help with that end of the
Try to
year.
make them whole, so to speak, even though we don't have student days, at least try to make them whole.
Yep.
Days that they're committed to them, so to speak.
Yep.
Okay.
Again, I don't think we need to make any decisions tonight. It's just, these are the conversations that I'm happy to entertain between now and January 9th. I just want to be able to communicate a plan to everybody after that.
We'll take action as a business.
Yep.
Okay.
How does that put us like from Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got one more day until we get to what we had told our community. It's gonna be Friday, June 2nd. And then we've got a week, really, 3 days before our next board meeting. We may or may not have an additional day. So that's where we're communicating. I feel comfortable communicating to everybody. Yep, we're either gonna be in session on the 17th of February or in session the Monday after Easter, or we're gonna move forward with e-learning days and begin to communicate what that's gonna look like for everybody. Or we could say, we're not gonna make up, we're gonna forgive 5 days. Those are the types of things that we need to begin to balance. And as I continue this week talking to the principals, talking to staff, I would feel much more comfortable bringing a recommendation in January as to what we're gonna do. I didn't think we were gonna have 3 snow days last week. So,
And this also moves like our semester end dates and
Yep.
that sort of thing too.
so we're still planning to end the first semester this week.
Thursday.
And it was supposed to be last week.
So originally it was like the 16th. To move it back. Now I think we're gonna be just like 1 day short, but the teachers, as we talked, it's much more feasible to end it before
Yeah.
Christmas break than to take it 1 day. Second.
So then, like you said, Carrie, second semester gets pushed in May, and then May term gets pushed to June 1st as of right now. Yep. Our seniors are the ones that are missing out on May term because
Their
the date-
date stays the same.
their date
Nothing
stays the same. We're not
changes.
moving seniors last day.
As principals, do you feel like during COVID, the learning was, effective? I feel like I heard from a lot of teachers that there were a lot of kids not doing it because it wasn't required, and there's a lot of parents that are at work during the day, to be honest. So, kids are often home by themselves, or do you feel like that's inaccurate? I guess I don't know what your take is on it.
And to add on to that, did it change from the beginning to the end?
Right.
Was some more participation maybe to start and then did that taper off? If we're just talking a day.
Yeah, I think the kids got fatigued of it rather quickly. I think if we kept it minimally to a day or two and you were getting some leeway leading up to it, you kind of preface what you were going to accomplish that day, go over a lot smoother than you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, get used to this. I mean, I think that environment just got a little bit tiring to the kids rather quickly. I think if you can preface ahead of time that this is going to be an enrichment day, this is going to be something to your benefit. Now, we have some requirements that we can't hold, but I think if it's on a minimal basis, I think it will keep their attention. It's just my thoughts.
And obviously, like middle school and high school might be a little bit different
High
than,
school's a little bit easier because they're
They
already
can do it on their own.
accessible to online
Yeah.
learning all the time. So they kind of know the way to go. They know how to
right,
navigate Canvas. They know how to get in touch with the teacher with Microsoft Teams and through email. At the lower end, it's a little bit more difficult because that might be more packet driven, independent reading. I mean, some of those things that are harder to monitor.
And I think the biggest take that I had input from staff is we just need to set some very clear guidelines before going into it. We'd have parents that would reschedule for maybe like 7 o'clock at night when they're home or 6 o'clock at night. That was also very taxing on the staff that they were on for extended amount of time, even if they were off for part of the afternoon, then they go back at night, So we want to set that up and say, okay, from 10 to noon or from 9 to 11, here's one session. And then if they make it, great. If they don't, then what are we going to do with that case? Not have to go chase that kid down at night, when we contact the parent first. And so those are things that we're just trying to create a better environment for the kids. That's what we want to sell it as. We're not going to do busy work. We want to try to, if we're going to do something enrichment, totally. This is going to help you when you come back.
And from a teacher standpoint too, you get your exploratory specials teacher. It's much easier to do as a math teacher, social studies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you have materials there and online curriculum where some of our PE teachers, they know they only have to plan for a day or two at a time. You can find instructional videos, you can do things. But when you're planning it for weeks at a time, quarters at a time, that's tough.
Some time to ponder that next month.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to board committees. Mr. George?
Yes, so the sharing committee is scheduled to meet in George on the 3rd. That's prior to the girls and boys basketball game. So Scott, Andy, myself, Jason, Dan will have a report back for everybody on the 9th. So I think the committee's, it's coming up.
Any other reports? Don't anything from committees?
I was at the foundation meeting on Tuesday. And, just a real good discussion on kind of what they have money, some endowment money that they will be receiving. And so planning what to do with that. They have some of the money is set aside for scholarships, some for other things. And they're just wanting our feedback as how that can best help us as a school. And it was a good discussion just to know a little bit more of what their goals are. And then hopefully we can help them better to know what to do with that.
Yeah, Carrie and I talked today for a while and had a similar conversation with Jeff Cruz, who's on the foundation board. They've got a 9-member board, and the challenge has been when they have their meetings, not all 9 people are there. And so they're kind of planning a work session of their own to really establish their goals, knowing that some of these larger endowments are coming from families, and how much do they want to really earmark and set aside for scholarships? How many dollars do they kind of want to put towards bigger projects? Since I've been here, it's always been kind of a $10,000 threshold for that big project, and then we've had mini grants for teachers apply to. So with that turnover on their board, they're looking to honor the past and what the previous boards have been doing, but also kind of vision for the future, knowing that there's going to be additional funds that are coming in. So a really healthy discussion. And again, blessed to have a foundation that has that to give back.
Okay, we will move on to item H, old business. We have a second reading of the policies in the 405 series.
Yeah, so the 405 and 406, again, we removed language in reference to the master contract. I would note that the 507 policy there are the goals for the wellness policy set or recommended by the wellness committee that came out of the food service site visit this last month. So second reading on all. If approved tonight, they'll be adopted.
Any other questions on those? I'll entertain a motion to approve the second reading.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the second reading of the policies as listed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to item I, new business. Item 1, consider parking lot and athletic facility bids.
So again, in the summary here, we did receive 3 bids last Friday for the parking lot and athletic complex. I did upload this morning a more detailed summary of all the different components that Gary Kurth and DGR was able to kind of verify that everything matched. The low bidder is Vanderwent and Sons out of Lamar's. In talking to Gary, Vanderwent has they worked with them on 2 similar projects at NCC in Sheldon in 2020 and 2021. So he feels very confident that they will do a good job for us in a similar project here. Happy to also report that the bid is approximately $100,000 less than what was estimated. So You can see I tried to break it out there based upon each component of the bid. But it would be my recommendation that we approve that bid with Vanderwent and Sons.
And that estimate was from September 2nd, so that's the estimate that we used to help build the budget to.
Correct. Yep.
Questions on that one? Need a motion, Mary?
I'll make a motion to approve the bid for Vanderbilt.
Motion and second to approve the bid from Vanderwent and Sons. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried. Item 2, consider Piper Sandler engagement letter for Save Bond.
So this engagement letter basically instructs Piper Sandler to begin the process for all the paperwork involved with selling the Save Bond in the very near future. Again, with your approval of that bid and January 9th, I'm anticipating that we'll have a bid to approve for the other projects that FEH are leading. We ultimately would authorize Piper Sandler to begin that process officially in January. So this is just kind of an agreement that they can then begin their work between now and the 9th of January.
Talks a little bit about their fees too,
The
right?
fees are in there. He also lays out the timeline for that whole process as well.
Questions on that? Take a motion when you're ready.
Make a motion to approve the engagement letter for Save Bond with Piper Sandler.
I'll second.
A motion and second to approve the engagement letter with Piper Sandler for the Save Bond. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 3, consider district plan for at-risk dropout prevention and dropout services for 23-24.
Jackie does a really nice job with all of her attachments and kind of a breakdown of the different programs and staff that are funded through at-risk dollars. Very thorough report. One thing that we have later on in the agenda is the resignation from Denise Snyders. She has, at the high school level, her position has typically been funded using the at-risk dollars. You know, we anticipate filling that, just knowing that anytime we have a change in staff, we reevaluate what we're offering. And so next year's at-risk dropout plan might look a little bit different depending upon whomever is hired in that role. Otherwise, you can see title reading at the elementary level, before and after school programs, summer programs are funded with at-risk dollars. Anything you want to add, Jackie?
No, Jeff Jagger's position, which is highly utilized here at Central Lyon. PBIS program, we can utilize some of Title $4, but they will not fund food, and we use a lot of food as rewards. Kids and adults alike respond to food. So that's not funded, so we utilize these dollars for that. Some school to work programs, just a lot of different things. So it's based on enrollment and funding formula within the state, and so our option is to request all of it, and we will use all of it and then some.
I know you need a roll call.
Mhm.
with the resolution. Any questions for Jackie before we do that? Do you need the motion to state? Just approval of what we've got listed?
I will read it, and then whoever decides to say it,
Was sold.
Soul, right? Director introduces the district plan, which we've done, and moves its adoption to request the school budget review committee for modified supplemental amount and supplemental aid for the 23-24 dropout prevention program in the amount of $260,898 for expenditures necessary to implement the at-risk and dropout prevention program plan as approved by the Central Lyon Community School District. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. In a roll call vote, Jans.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Harder.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Coop.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and on item 5, consider copier lease proposals.
Yeah, so
I think you skipped one.
Did I skip? I skipped 4?
Yep.
I already had them.
I don't know if that was intentional.
Yeah.
Again, this is from the Iowa High School Athletic Association. They've been studying classification, specifically football classification, for a few years now. They formed their own classification committee, representatives from big schools, small schools, non-public schools. And it is their recommendation that we adopt a classification factor based upon free and reduced lunch. And the documents that are included in there kind of go into what the details would be, but then also the impact to the classifications. Talking to Coach Eben, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Engelman, my fellow superintendents and activities directors across the Siouxland Conference. It's my recommendation that we vote yes. Again, this is only related to football. It doesn't impact any other sports. It doesn't impact any female sports. It's really, it's a trial. And then depending upon kind of feedback from member, we may or may not continue it 2 years from now. But ultimately, if 60% of schools across state say, yes, let's make this change, it will be implemented for next year's football classifications. For Central Lyon, kind of selfishly, we are right in the middle of Class 2A. So this isn't going to impact us this time around, probably wouldn't impact us next time or any time in any near future. Those that are impacted the greatest are non-publics. So schools like Western Christian, they're projected to move from Class 1A to Class 2A. Another non-public in the region would be like Harold Kemper. They would move from 1A to 2A. They're most likely not going to be in our district, but we could potentially face them in the playoffs. If you recall, last year we played Clear Lake in the second round. They're projected to go from Class 2A to 3A, so they would be out of our class. Similarly, there's classes at the bottom that were maybe at the top of Class 1A that would go to 2A. Van Meter is one of those schools that has a low free and reduced rate, so they would probably bump up a class. Again, projections that we have here are based upon 2 years ago enrollment data. That's my recommendation to vote yes. I'll tell you that only Okoboji and the Siouxland Conference is voting no. The other 9 schools in the Siouxland Conference are voting yes.
The private schools impacted the most. They're at 0%
Correct.
free and reduced lunch.
Yep. And so their student population isn't going to be decreased like our student population, because when we can add ours together, approximately 30% of our students are receiving free and reduced. So we're subtracting while they're maintaining.
Everybody is subtracting except for
Yep. Anything to add, Jason?
any questions on that discussion. In a motion to vote yes, if that's what we're feeling.
Motion to vote yes on this adjustment to the classifications.
Second. Have a motion second to vote yes on the classification adjustment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Now we will.
Yes, the copiers, you're just so excited about copiers. Again, working with Curtis and Jeff, our copiers have been leased for a fair number of years. That is coming to an end at the end of this school year. So we've obtained a couple different proposals. One from our current company, Gordon Fletch, who we have used since I've been here. They bought out Advanced Systems. And then the second proposal that we have here is from Access Systems. They're based out of Des Moines. The other thing that I would note is we've added equipment breakdown insurance since the last time we leased our copiers. And so on our previous lease agreement, we had a maintenance agreement with Gordon Fletch, and that took care of not only preventative maintenance, but anytime we had a paper jam or there was something wrong with the machines, we would call them. They would come out, they would fix it. We weren't charged an hourly rate. Now with our equipment breakdown insurance, we get that same type of policy, but it's coming from Jester Insurance instead of needing that as a part of our agreement. So what Gordon Fletch did was they gave us what a similar lease would be versus a purchase price. And as you can see there's about a $15,000 difference if we were to purchase the machines versus lease them. Similar breakdown insurance would take care of any of the needs that we have over the course of the life of that equipment. So you can see the price difference there from Gordon Fletch. Access Systems, their proposal was for a 4-year lease. You can see the total value of that. Again, talking to Curtis and Jeff, they're comfortable with the purchase because the Canon machines that are a part of Gordon Fletch's proposal is even a step up from the machines that we have currently, and feel very comfortable that they'll last 4 to 5 years. And with the equipment breakdown insurance, it just seems the savings for us compared to what we've had previously. So that's how we've come to the.
So for our copiers now, with the lease agreement, when there's maintenance, we do it through the lease agreement.
Yep,
But
now that we've got the equipment breakdown,
we would go, if we purchased, then we would go through
correct.
that equipment breakdown insurance that we have.
So essentially, what we get billed for right now is a per copy beyond our minimum, which is written in the lease. That's how we're billed for that lease agreement or for the maintenance agreement. Going forward, whether we were to lease or whether we were to purchase, we wouldn't pay that additional fee per copy, which is, again, a pretty big savings because quarterly, we're spending about another $3,000 for our overages. It's just, it's a pretty significant savings to have the equipment breakdown. And again, equipment breakdown's coming out of the management fund, which we can adjust and it's not coming from the general fund or even PEPAL or SAVE when we can purchase the equipment out of PEPAL and SAVE.
Right, so the lease payments come out of PEPAL, but those quarterly overages cannot. Those come out of general fund. So by doing it this way and with the breakdown, we save, we're really saving twice.
The recommendation is to
Purchase, yep. So the agreement, purchase price would be $49,787.
And that it doesn't just include copiers, it was also printers.
Printer for Jackie, a printer for Steve Bresky upstairs.
How many printers is this?
3.
It's the three.
I have to have a designated one for checks. And Bresky's area, they're just too far removed from anywhere to make it feasible for them to come wandering around. And then Rhonda, it's just so busy in the elementary office that if she wants to do something, she's usually standing in line. And so those are kind of the designated areas that need their own copy.
Right now, our lease, we've got 3 printer copiers, 1 here, 2 in the elementary. And so we would still have 3, that's what we would be purchasing, are these 3 heavy-duty ones that most of our staff and our kids are gonna be printing to or copying from. So that number of machines, we're not gonna increase the number of machines.
Under the current lease agreement, has any of the equipment been replaced?
No.
That's what the original, we started with at the beginning of the, I think, the current 5-year lease too.
3, 4.
4. Yep.
We kind of started going to 4-year because we felt like at that 5th year, we were really starting to see more and more calls for maintenance. So we kind of went to the 4-year. And so far, we've been doing very, very good.
Yeah, these, again,
Which
talking to
made
Jeff.
better, maybe or better machines.
Jeff and Curtis, these machines are better than the machines that they had previously where we had issues.
So,
And
but we're thinking 4 to 5 years, we'll probably be replacing
Mhm.
this.
exactly,
And whether the company that you choose to go through the next time just buys those back as a trade-in, or you choose to sell them
we could turn around and sell them.
on a third, aftermarket too, so.
More questions?
Motion to approve purchase.
I was like,
We have a motion and second to approve the purchase proposal from Flash, the amount of $49,787. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. This one deserves to be taken by itself. Consider early retirement for Denise Snyder's.
Yes, so you approved last month the early retirement offering. As of right now, Denise Snyder's is the only one that's completed the paperwork for early retirement. We have a couple other staff members that are contemplating that. Our deadline is January 5th, so we can bring it to the board here at our January 9th meeting. But if you approve this, Mr. Engelman and I will begin to craft what that job description is going to look like and post that even before we go on break here by the end of this week, so we can begin to recruit and try to find a replacement for Ms. Snyder's. We thank her for all her work with our at-risk kids over the course of her career. She's also taught business classes. Been a great resource for us and our kids and families.
Sure. Need a motion to approve that early retirement resignation. You ready?
I'll make a motion to approve Denise's early retirement.
Second?
A motion and second to approve the early retirement application of Denise Snyder's. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Let's take items 7 and 8 together, the resignation and hirings. Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, so Mrs. Docker has submitted her resignation. If you remember, this year she went to a part-time role in the special ed department. Kyra Walatich is the recommendation for her replacement. Similar role, but we will make that a full-time position. Kyra has not only student taught with Kelly this year, but has been a para in her room for many years. Knows the kids, their IEPs, knows the families, and very confident that she's going to step in and continue the good things that Mrs. Docker has done in kind of that middle school, high school special ed role. And then Mitch Van Beek has already serving as a substitute for Mandy Verbeek. in middle school, 7th and 8th grade science. So, anything else to add on those three?
No, thankful for Kelly's years of service and it's a smooth transition between her and Mrs. Waltich, who's, like Mr. George said, has had already a number of years of experience in that classroom and working with those kiddos.
Motion to approve both of those when you're ready. Resignations and hirings.
This is mission about it.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve the resignation.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the resignation and hirings as listed. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Item 9, policy. We have a first reading of policies 40705 and 40801. Review. Policies 407 and 408 series.
Yes, so the only, the first reading, there's only two. Similar 40705 is removing language in reference to the master contract. And then for whatever reason, we didn't have 40801, which is professional development for the teaching staff. So with that change in 407, the addition of 408 will bring those back in January for a second reading. All the items in review, there is no language change. Nothing's changed when reference to the ISB sample policy, so we're just reviewing those items. We will not be bringing those back since there's no changes.
Questions or comments on any of those? I will entertain a motion for those. When you're ready?
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of 407.05 and 408.01.
You to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And the review of the policies as listed.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second to approve the first readings and the review of the policies as listed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Item J, announcements, dates to remember.
Wednesday, we've got the bid opening for the projects being led by FEH. That'll happen at 11. Again, bus barn, middle school bridge, elementary classrooms and casework, and then the 2 playgrounds, preschool and elementary. Anybody and everybody's invited to come be a part of that if they want to. We do not need a quorum, so if you can't make it, that's not a problem. And then, like we said, starting Friday is winter break. And then Tuesday, I didn't put it on here, but Tuesday is a half-day work day for staff. It's a no school day. And then our first day back with the kids will be Wednesday, the 4th. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 9th. We have rescheduled home basketball games on the 9th. If we're gonna move that date, I need to know so I can publish a different public hearing date. You know, as I look at the calendar, as of right now, do not believe we have a whole lot going on the following day, the 10th.
Either the 10th or the 11th is the church nights, but yeah, the 10th is an FFA meeting at 7.
So if we wanted to move the board meeting to the 10th or the 11th, we're still within our days to accept the bid, even though we're having the opening on Wednesday. I just need to publish appropriately of when that public hearing is going to be.
I would appreciate it if we could move it.
I will be.
That should work for me too.
So the
Okay.
Tuesday, January 10th, 7 o'clock.
Sounds good. 6:55, we'll do the public hearing, just like we did tonight. And then approve, hopefully we've got multiple bids to consider. And also at that, determine how we want to offer our save bonds publicly, basically nationwide offering or a more local process like we kind of explained last.
Okay, bill review.
Those two things, and put the signature to it.
Did you, Andy, want to adjourn for those that wanted to go to the concert? And then, like we've done historically, allow those that don't have to go, have kids singing, sign the bills and review the bills.
You do not. Okay,
So
I think it's just Dave and I.
Yeah, I don't have to.
Okay.
So, all right, if the three of us go and watch the concert. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
We're gonna adjourn then?
Okay.
Second.
Okay,
I'm gonna put all three of you down.
the motion and second to adjourn, all in favor.
You just sign those two things. I'll get everybody else going on the other things. And for the save engagement letter. Gave you.
Yep.
And the resolution of the vote for the act. Nothing earth shattering.
Told them to come to the comments after us, which is.
How many are signing? 3?
Okay, this might be.
Exactly. I think he's gonna wonder.
He's gonna wonder if I'm coming or not.
Yep.